Hi folks, I wanted to make a short video on how I went and made my own CO2 car, and inspired by this Porsche 411 futuristic concept that I saw on the web. I went ahead and I found some additional pictures, but I wanted to show you this is what that looks like and what I started off with. So keeping in mind all of the restrictions and limitations that we have for our car, particularly the length being 210 millimeters, 200 to 210 millimeters in length, and the height, etc. I started off with just a rectangle, a center rectangle to kind of keep my reference in the middle. And then I went ahead and I added a sketch picture. If you guys might remember, you can go ahead and add a sketch picture. Right, so this is one of the ones that I found on there. This is the side view of that particular car. So I got that one and I put it in. And then I went ahead and put in a couple more planes, one on the front and one on the back. And then on those planes, I put the front picture of the car and the back picture of the car, kind of just to help me visualize it. So I aligned them all, and then I'm going to use that as a reference for making the car. So I took the original outline, I traced it using the spline tool, fixed it a little bit, rounded it off and whatnot, and I extruded it. I extruded it a little bit more than I needed to, and you'll see why in just a second. I then went ahead and I put a picture of the top of the car on top of it. And truthfully, I want to let you know I elongated the car because of the dimensions that we are looking to build with are a little bit different than the ones that I saw on that picture, but as it is, it's just a reference. So that was my original reference. Okay, then what I did is I took, let me bring out the sketch. I took that original reference for the front of the car. I outlined it, right? And then I cut it. I cut that original extrusion. I cut going towards it from front to back. That was that particular feature. So what that gave me is that gave me a rounded side profile. Right, so originally I came in from the side view, and then I took the front of the car and I cut it all the way back to give me a rounded surface. Now from here, let me go ahead and get rid of the pictures for now. So I can go to View, Hide, Show, and I could get rid of sketches for now. On this next step, I decided to make those big wheel wells, and I made one in the front and one in the back. What that sketch looks like, just so you know, I went ahead and lined it up so that I'm looking at it perfectly straight on, and I lined up that circle. The radius that I did was based on the size of the tires that we're going to use, and I figured that 23 was going to be big enough to house the inside of that wheel. And it turned out I had made it originally smaller, then I went back and changed it. So I made both of those stick out. Then I started the filleting process. I went ahead and I filleted the edges for this. And one really important thing that happened, notice that everything on the bottom is kind of rounded off now. But when I mentioned before that the bottom of the car has to be perfectly flat in order for me to print it. So I cut it by using a rectangle on the bottom, and I just cutting the whole bottom off by a little bit and flattening it out. Then I continued to fill it, in this case the back of the wheel well, then the front one, and then finally the profile. Now from here, notice I've only been doing half of it. I'm going to go ahead and then mirror it. And what I did to mirror, just so you know, if I go to edit feature, you are going to use this face or a plane that is on that, where that face is, in order to mirror it. Remember, for a sketch, you need a line in order to mirror a sketch, but for a solid, you're going to need a plane. And then I selected all of the things that I wanted to copy over. More than likely, you're going to need to click on geometry pattern that allows you to keep both halves. All right, so that's how I went ahead and did that. So that looks really good. The other thing that's still missing, of course, is the tank, or the spot for the tank to go into for the cartridge. So once again, using the measurements that I gave you guys, I went ahead and made the extrusion with the hole, and just so that I can double check, I want to say, well, what is the size of this inside hole? And I knew that it should be 19 millimeters because that's what I told you guys, so just double it. It doesn't hurt to double check. And then I went and I filleted the edge, the little inside and the outside edge of that, and also where it joins the body. I spent quite a bit of time in trying to get these fillets the right size. Sometimes if I went too big on one fillet, the other fillet would crash. So you're going to have to spend a little bit of time to do this. It probably took me a couple of hours to get all those fillets just right. So once you have all your fillets done, then you go ahead and select the bottom and do your shell. The shell, remember, has to be 1.5 millimeters in thickness, and you don't have to click show preview, but there is a good chance that it will fail initially. That's once again something else that's going to take quite a bit of time in order to get just right. The last cut extrude that I did in here was for the little hole for the fishing line. Originally, I had mentioned that one of the options is to have a post or a support for an eye hook where the fishing line goes through, and we're going to be trying putting a hole through the whole body instead in order to eliminate that particular step. And then I just chamfered the front of that hole, and then the holes for the axles. So from here, if you haven't already done so, go back and forth with the assembly of your vehicle, putting the wheels in, putting the axles in, the cartridge, etc. And you'll realize you'll probably have to go back and make some additional changes. But anyway, I hope this helps. Good luck with your build.